Hello, Abigail here with the astrology for this week. This week is full of Mercurial happenings. Mercury kind of takes the center stage along with that new moon in Pisces. Super important to note as we're kind of progressing through this week. This new moon is sort of the kickstarter to our Virgo eclipse. When we have eclipses that are between two seasons, so an eclipse in Pisces season and an eclipse in Aries season, we don't really hit that eclipse energy right away. But once we have experienced this new moon, we are gearing up into an eclipse, and then we'll go through that eclipse portal, hit that next eclipse, and then gear down. That's kind of how the energy tends to work. It's like this massive peak to that middle point between the eclipses, and then experience of that final eclipse, and then kind of a petering out of that kind of extreme eclipse energy. So just know that even though we're a couple weeks out, the buildup starts to happen here. And you're like, Abigail, the buildup is already here. Yes. And that is because when we start this week, we start off with Mars stationing direct. Um, and so we'll station on Sunday, which is the day before I start these, and it will continue to kind of pick up speed throughout this week. So if the beginning of this week feels really slow and stressful, that's why. And also on Tuesday, we have Mercury conjunct Saturn. So that kind of feeling of being pinned down. It feels like Saturn, maybe not in quite such a brutal way as taking a pin and kind of pinning down the butterfly that is, Mercury in Pisces. If you remember, Mercury in Pisces is in detriment. I don't see it as a horrible thing. It just means that you have to function differently than maybe some other mercurial humans. If you are Mercury in Pisces, you're 100% not on the same kind of wavelength as a Mercury in Virgo, although there is kind of a reception there because you are in opposition. That's maybe not the best example. You might struggle with some of those things, but where I find detriment planets excel, they excel in struggle. They excel in unprecedented times and circumstances because no one expects them to behave the way they behave, and that kind of element of surprise allows them to do many wonderful and magical things. It's not easy though. So you can be upset about your Mercury in Pisces if you want, but I find it to be a really beautiful, sparkling, um, subterranean butterfly. So Mercury conjunct Saturn, we're going to be kind of put at a stop. A lot of our perspectives and understandings and maybe just some things that we've always considered as facts are going to kind of be pulled up for review. And we're going to have to review our beliefs and our understandings and some of the ideals that we've been running with for a bit. I think this also has the opportunity to allow us to stand up for ourselves, maybe not in a typical way, but to set some really important boundaries around our minds and the way we function and how we move and work through the processes we're going through. This Mars retrograde has forced all of us, because Mars is also in detriment, to find new ways of coping. None of my coping mechanisms have been functional, I'll tell you that. So, you know, find new ways to express yourself. They are, with Mercury and Pisces, they're not going to be standard ways. Write poetry, sing songs. I know it sounds funny, but we are in an age where everything is kind of online. Writing a letter, though in the past would not have been very Mercury and Pisces, writing a letter in today's day and age is starting to fall under kind of unusual ways of communication. Um, and that's a thought for another day, but with society, so changes the purview of the stars. Same with past life things. Like I said, I'm going to keep myself off of that rabbit trail. So we have this moment of having to put a pause on things, which is going to be especially frustrating because Mars is also going to slowly but surely start to pick up speed, and we're going to be like, oh, we can't really move forward. And also, while we're not in a trine, neither of these planets are in a direct trine, we're not that far away from Mars. So a lot of themes from the Mars retrograde, partially because we're in that post shadow period, are going to be coming back. So Tuesday is a great day to kind of sit with the things that Mars retrograde has brought you. And obviously, we're not through it. The Mars post shadow period's a couple months. But to really start to allow ourselves to digest what has happened, but digest it in a way that is a little more beneath the surface. So that includes resting, that includes allowing yourself maybe some time away from your devices, just creating space for you to process energy. I'm talking to myself. I find technology incredibly helpful as a disabled person, but it also can be incredibly unhelpful as well. But take some time to yourself. And when we're dealing with Saturn, time is always good. Time is always on our side, even when it doesn't feel like it. So that's Tuesday. Then we move into Thursday. We have this beautiful new moon in Pisces. It is square Jupiter, which is its ruler. So there is this kind of back and forth. you know, the ruler of this moon is kind of in a tricky position to the moon itself. But I do think there's a beautiful feedback of Pisces can become so in depth and so boundless that we can lose track of things in Pisces. And in Gemini, Gemini is like that little like bird or creature who's like chasing the thing that moves really fast and then catching it. So we might be able in this new moon to snag something in Pisces that has been evading us, to find like, I don't want to say entrapped because it's not very nice, but to be able to get a hold of something that has been evading us with that Jupiter kind of putting a little bit of pressure on the limitlessness of Pisces. And Saturn, while not in orb for me technically, is involved. So there is restriction. So there is an inability to move. I also really do believe, and like I said, I'm going to do a video on this. So I'm going to get in more in depth into it later, reminding myself I'm about to go on a tear about the new moon in Pisces. That this is that kind of precursor, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, to this Virgo full moon eclipse that's going to be real intense. So just take some time to really enjoy this new moon in Pisces. View the restrictions less as restrictions and more as a guideline to find whatever magic you are seeking in this moment. Restrictions can feel so limiting, but sometimes they make the area that we have to dig in and search in to find something smaller. So instead of seeing it as like, oh, you can't go there, you can't go there, see it more as like a map. That's like, oh, the thing you want's not there, and the thing you want isn't there. The thing you want is in this area, and then get your little spade out and start digging, or start chasing whatever form this dream or desire takes. And also, this is a great time to really set up your desires for this next moment. Because as we all know, or not, maybe we don't all know, but eclipses, there's no way to control. Um, Kind of the way that I tend to describe them is you get kind of picked up from point A and put at point H, and you're like, I feel like I skipped a bunch of steps. I'm not sure what happened, but I am now here. So keep that in mind. It can be a little scary if things are already feeling a bit shaky, which they kind of are, considering what comes next in this astrological lineup. But trust and know that the universe will honor your intentions, even if it already has to remove some things. And if those things are removed, then they were barriers to those intentions. Once again, talking to myself. I always love this when I'm going through a rough time and I do these videos and I'm like, I should take my own advice. Anyways, moving into Saturday, we have Mercury conjunct the North Node. I really love this. This is a moment of really allowing ourselves to dream. It's a moment of believing in the impossible, especially in Pisces, of believing in the limitlessness and the magic of our minds and of our intentions. This also reminds me of something that I personally believe, which is that our imagination is our own personal corner of the collective cosmos. So, the further into the edges of your imagination you go, the more in contact you come with different forms of intelligences in life. And that can be human, it can be spirit, it can be extraterrestrial, it can be whatever. Depends on what patch of the cosmos you are in. But you have to be careful when doing this. But maybe explore your imagination on this day. This can be dreams, this can be astral traveling, which is basically what I'm talking about. This can be projecting your desires into the future in times like this when we're under so much pressure, when things are changing at lightning speed. Something that I find, my dog's whining at me. Reggie, mommy will come in a minute, okay? Go wait. Thank you. Um, he has stairs to the bed. He just wants me to pick him up and put him on the bed. um, Anyways, back to what I was saying. In times like these, something that I just do, even not in times like these, because I'm not really a visual exact manifester, is to manifest the desires you want to feel. For me, a lot of it is comfort and safety and coziness and feeling at home in not only my body, but in the spaces that I live in. You know, you don't have to manifest an exact home or apartment if you don't want to, but you can manifest having plants around you, or you can manifest being close to nature. It doesn't always have to be one to one. And with Mercury and Pisces conjunct the North Node, the universe is really in a great place to kind of take these scattered imaginings, these emotions, and really craft something beautiful and unique for you. And it's probably nothing like you've ever imagined, nothing like you've ever dreamed of. And there is a kind of terrifying beauty to that. I think the key here is that if you're going to do that, you do have to be ready for change and for drastic difference and for wonderful and good things, but things that you've never really considered before. Um, so if you're feeling brave on this day, go for it. I am going to do that and trust that all the things that I would like to keep that I'm currently investing in, if they are meant to be, they will remain. And if they are not, I will find something that is more attuned to me down the road. And it is a great act of faith to trust that. And some of us are not ready, and it is fine if you are not. This is just kind of like, if you're feeling like you're there, do this on that day. Another thing to do is to communicate how you feel. Once again, Mercury and Pisces. So you don't have to be one to one. It can be sharing a song with someone. It can be, um, sharing your art with someone. This is a great day for artists and painters and dancers to really get their message across, or at least to come up with something that they eventually want to share with the world. Because Pisces and Mercury and Pisces, to me, is the wordless communicator, the communicator in ways that are not literal, but are more figurative, like music, dance, and song, in these wordless expressions. Is a very Pisces Mercury moment, and also Neptune in Pisces and the North Node in Pisces. And on the same day, on Saturday, y'all, it's time. It is the start of the Venus retrograde. I will tell you, the pre-shadow period has been intense for a lot of people. So if you're like, I thought it was already happening, you're not wrong. This retrograde, Venus retrograde, I think definitely, because it's happening in a Mars ruled sign and Mars has been retrograding, has already felt like we are in a retrograde. Things are starting to shake loose. The amount of people I know who were doing relatively ish kind of average during the first part of the Mars retrograde, the minute Venus hit that shadow period, the stuff started to fall apart. So just note, this is a continuation. This is kind of the official beginning. I can't remember the exact date, but I want to say April 17th is when it stations direct. Don't quote me on that. I'm also tracking the Mercury retrograde that happens in a couple of weeks as well, and stations in April. It's either April, maybe it's April 7th. I don't ask me. I don't think it's April 7th because I'm pretty sure it has a longer cycle than that. But this retrograde is coming in. This is a Venus in detriment as well. Do you see the theme? Jupiter in detriment, Venus in detriment, Mercury in detriment, Mars in detriment, all the personal planets, and even some of the outer planets in detriment. But this is an opportunity to be true to yourself. This is an opportunity to connect to your own vitality, to throw off what is normal and acceptable and pre-approved by society. I am an Aries Venus. We do not do things in half portions. We do not limit ourselves to what the world says we can limit ourselves. We can be pretty cagey at first, but a Venus in Aries loves with everything they have, almost to the point of obsession. And Venus in Aries, though spiky at first, if you're able to, for 1 second, be the person that they desire, they will be codependent with you and love you deeply. So while this may not be your placement, this is that feeling, that delight in connection, that kind of intense, aggravating pursuance of love and of sensual things. That is an Aries Venus dogged pursuit of connection, relationship. And in some ways, that can seem too aggressive for Venus, too violent for Venus. But if you have this placement, it is what it is. I also find that every single person I've known with an Aries and Venus, while it has caused problems in their lives, we adore that placement with an unhinged passion. I'm on that list. So this is a time to be true to yourself. This is a time to ask yourself, if I do not crave, if I do not pine, if I do not desire, then what is the value of this? And yeah, not all relationships fall under that purview, but it is a good time to kind of check in and see what that is. Once we get halfway through, we will hit that kind of Passover point where we get an exalted Venus in Pisces and that vibe will shift. So just be aware. But yeah, this is the official start of the Venus retrograde on Saturday. Then on Sunday, Mercury conjunct Neptune. This is just beautiful for existing. I don't like to give a whole lot of instruction around Neptune moments because Neptune is the unknown and the unseen and the intangible. Just know that that's what you're kind of approaching and engage in that in the way that you know best. This is a great time for spirit communication. This is a great time for um, existing kind of between worlds. Also, Neptune is going to be entering into Aries in about a month. It goes on April 1st. So these are kind of our last few moments before it goes in. It will come back towards the mid to end of 2025, and then we have it, entering finally into Aries in 2026. But these are sweet days. So connect with spirit, connect with the unknown. Ask yourself what your unspoken, unuttered desires are. Listen to your cravings, especially with that pairing with the Venus retrograde. And while you're never going to get from a Venus in Aries, you're never going to get that full intense dose of energy that you so crave, you can create it and bring it into the world for yourself. And that is the trick with Venus and Aries, is to learn that no one can fill that insatiable desire but you. And there is a great beauty in what other signs bring to the table. And the beauty that you so crave is within you. I know it can sound a little cliche, but it truly is with the Venus and Aries. A Venus in Aries is always going to desire the same energy that they put out. It doesn't mean that that's compatible. It doesn't mean that that's what they need, because that would be too much. The lesson is not go find it in other people. The lesson is to find it within themselves and to bring that to the world and to share that insatiable desire with everyone, and having that Mercury conjunct Neptune, because I know you're wondering how I'm going to tie this in. It is really a beautiful divine connection with massive amounts of power, massive amounts of energy, and knowing how to digest and just exist in it for the sake of that, rather than constantly having to utilize. And then last but not least, we have the sun square Jupiter. My dog is like, girl, it has been a long time. Reginald, mommy will come, okay? Can you wait just 2 more minutes, okay? Good boy. He is my baby. One day I will show him here. He is beautiful. Sun square Jupiter. This is us in Pisces in a murky, deep underwater home, kind of at odds with Jupiter laughing and frittering away their life in Gemini, causing trouble. The desire to be hidden and to be quiet coming up against this kind of loud jester of a moment with Jupiter, and knowing that we need both of those things to move forward, that our desires in Pisces and this need for expansion also requires us to come into a smaller space to understand bigger ideas so that we can then expand. And so this is the day to listen to your desires. Any day that we have with the sun is about listening to the essence of self, and the essence of who we are and what we need on a real core moment, and what we have brought into the world, regardless of what your sun sign is. And so coming up against this Jupiter that is small and silly and, asking knock, knock, who's there incessantly, to take that moment and to recognize that that is also an invitation into the unknown. That is also an invitation into the unseen, that not all solutions are dissolving. Not all solutions mean that there is nothingness around us. Not all solutions don't have an answer, which can be a very comforting thing in Pisces, to know that there is this limitlessness. But Jupiter and Gemini is like, no, there are some small little things it also reminds us that while, especially this Pisces season, even though it's only a few days in, I've been feeling this deep, deep need to kind of dissolve into nothingness, this desire to exist on higher planes. There's my dog. He finally decided to use the stairs after being upset with me. Anyways, this desire to dissolve into nothingness and to not have to care about the world and not have to exist so interconnectedly because it is just too much. Jupiter and Gemini reminds us that we do still need to exist and that we do still need to find connections, but rather than seeing it as this massive spider web, which is what Gemini often is, we can see it as glitters of light in the water. And that those little sparkles of light, that very kind of Gemini, beautiful fractalness, can also exist and be something that we pursue and we piece together and we play in. Not everything is these tiny little bite sized pieces of things up in Gemini, and not everything is this massive expanse of nothingness. Um, so allow yourself to live in that dichotomy. Let it inspire you. Let it push you towards expansion. It is funny because Jupiter and Gemini like brings us down to the kind of minute kernels of information and desire, and reminds us that, and Virgo does this as well, but reminds us that the tiniest seeds have sometimes the most towering, expansive potential, and to remind us not to forget that the little things truly matter as we sit in a sign where the big things are everything. Anyways, my loves, that is my message for you for this week. I will be coming out with another video. Also, the Tarotscopes, most of them will have been released at this time. They are for your sign. Please utilize them as you will. If you have any questions, pop them in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. It makes my heart happy when I see people enjoying my content and resonating with it. Anyways, I will see you in a different time and place. Blessed Pisces season, blessed new moon in Pisces, and I will see you later.